This is being called India's WhatsApp election with over 200 million users. WhatsApp is going to be a very important weapon in the arsenal of every political party in this general election. But it also comes with the very real danger of fake news. So for the first time, the Election Commission, while announcing the poll schedule on Sunday, also said that political parties and their star campaigners will have to be careful about what they post on their social media accounts so as not to violate the Model Code of Conduct. The EC has said that political advertisements on social media will need pre-certification, and these ads will also be seen as part of the poll expenditure of the party. The Chief Election Commissioner also said that social media platforms like Google, Facebook, YouTube and Twitter have said that all political ads will be certified, and that Facebook and Google have deputed a dedicated grievance officer to receive complaints of violations of the EC guidelines such as fake news and hate campaigns. Sounds very nice when it's on paper, but how is it actually going to work? Because when you look at the online media campaigns right now, you are flooded with fake news, fake images, fake videos, fake information, just outright lies every single day. And so will one grievance officer or a few of them really be able to take those down? Who's going to be fact-checking all this? How does this actually work over the next 2.5 months? Well, joining us on the program this evening, we have with us Jency Jacob from Boom Live, which is one of those fact-checking websites which is doing a terrific job really in busting those lies. Akash Banerjee joins us tonight. We have Vivek Reddy of the BJP, Salman Soz of the Congress, and senior journalist Sagrika Ghosh here in the studio with us. The first question to you, Jency, how is this actually going to work? Is it possible to monitor fake news in this election the way the Election Commission wants to?
Yeah, Nidhi, I don't want to start the show on a bad note, but I would like to say that this is too little too late. There were 8 assembly elections that took place in 2018, about 7 assembly elections that took place in 2017. Why was the EC not actually running pilot projects during these elections? Maybe they have, I am not aware of that, but at least I didn't hear them say anything on that in that direction. So let me put it this way, all the things that they are mentioning about how they're going to monitor the social media handles and the pages of the candidates, the easy loophole for any candidate or anyone to exploit is that they can turn around and say that these are the 4 or 5 accounts that is directly linked to me. But what about all the other accounts which are actually propagating various kind of political narratives? How are you going to control that? In fact, I did ask someone from the EC about this, and they said that's a grey area. So if that's such a big grey area, then why have they woken up just at the onset of a major election which is going to decide the political future of the country? Why now? Why not earlier?
Why is it a grey area? Can you explain that to us, Jency? Why does the EC say that?
So this is yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. The question was for you, Jency.
Yes, so Nidhi, as I was saying, one of the informal discussions I've had with one of the State Election Commission in the past, about 6 months back, one of the questions they always had was this. If they have to control all the kind of narratives and the misinformation that is spreading on probably, let's take for example Facebook. Now they say that they are going to monitor the expenditure, and they're going to say that if suppose if there is some misinformation which is coming from a user, if it's part of the official machinery of the candidate, then that that expenditure will be added to the account. The counter question to that is, what if there are 100 accounts who are not linked to the candidate directly? How are you going to monitor that? And while every candidate can say that these are the 4 or 5 pages of posts that are linked to me directly, and all the political advertisements here are mapped and there is no misinformation here, all the other accounts that are probably pushing out that kind of misinformation will never be tracked, and it can never be taken back to the candidate himself. This is a big grey area, and which is why I'm a bit worried that while the Election Commission has made these announcements, how will it be implemented?
Absolutely, and I think a lot of the misinformation, barring some cases, doesn't actually come from official verified accounts of political leaders. It often does happen, like you said, with these sort of shadow accounts and trolls and the sort of Twitter armies that are out there for various parties. So Akash Banerjee, that's one part of it. But as I said right at the beginning, many are calling this a WhatsApp election. So people are waking up every morning to all kinds of WhatsApp forwards. A lot of it is full of misinformation. WhatsApp is end-to-end encryption. So how do you tackle something like that?
So Nidhi, two quick points here. The first thing is that, as Jency already has pointed it out to you, it's a humongous, massive task to control this entire flow of information that is flowing out at that point of time. It's just not very easily possible. Secondly, also, Nidhi, one has to understand the Election Commission making an announcement and doing something about it. Jency just talked about the fact that they haven't done anything in the assembly elections. I'd like to point out one bigger fact here. On the day of elections, again this time, after all the protests, you will see massive ads in newspapers, because there is a lacuna in the People's Representation Act that allows for newspapers to publish those ads. It has been pointed out to the Election Commission so many times, nothing has happened. So making an announcement is easy. Implementing something as basic as stopping those newspapers ad because it is a lacuna hasn't been done. Secondly, Nidhi, what is talked about is the fact that influencers. Now, we have seen this happen. People who were not talking about politics. We saw the Cobra Post expose. People who are not talking about politics are suddenly talking about politics. Why is it so? Because political parties are 5 miles ahead than what the Election Commission could even think of. And there is no legal way that you can tell a celebrity, why are you saying all of this all of a sudden? While the reality is, we all know that there has been something that has been exchanged.
All right. Well, I mean, those are both, worrying and important points. And then that comes to the next question, Vivek Reddy, which is that, frankly, we could curb this fake news problem if the fake news didn't happen. I mean, I'm just reading out an example to you. For example, the Huffington Post did an investigation in January this year, which showed how the Narendra Modi app, as they put it, has a fake news problem where you have a lot of people who are posting stuff on the Namo app, which just turns out to be blatantly fake. For instance, there was one user who, was repeatedly posting fake stuff, like saying that of the 40,000 rape cases in India in the last 10 years, 39,000 had a Muslim rapists. Whereas, we know for a fact that crime data in India doesn't mention the religion of any criminal. So, it would help, Mr. Reddy, if political parties crack down on this fake news, but perhaps they don't want to.
Well, I think, Nidhi, with great respect to the previous speaker, I think he is partly right and partly wrong. First of all, the Election Commission now has launched a C-Vigil app in view of this new trend in social media. The C-Vigil app makes it possible for any person who witnesses, even an audience, even a reader, to make a complaint to the Election Commission. Now, earlier it was the political parties or the agents who were filing these complaints, but interestingly this time, under the C-Vigil app, every person can make a complaint to the Election Commission regarding violations of the Model Code of Conduct. So this is an area that has been newly created in order to make citizens watchguards. So that is a good development, considering the sort of fake news that is there in the media. The second thing is that there is heightened awareness amongst people also today, and that we have to recognize. Why is this heightened awareness? Because everybody gets involved in a democracy, gets involved in the debates, and wants to participate in the process. So therefore, this has to be given full expression. The previous panelist was saying that, look here, people who are not talking about politics are talking about politics today. That's the reason. There is more exposure to democratic debates, and therefore everybody wants a chance to participate and have
there's
their
a
view,
difference between which is great, Mr. Reddy, but there is a difference between wanting to take part in the democratic process and having a political opinion, which everybody in a democracy and everywhere is entitled to, and a difference between that and actually allowing fake news to flourish. I mean, I've just given you the example of the Namo app, where you have all these posts
let me
that
tell you one thing about Namo
I mean, they're
app.
just fiction.
Let me tell you one thing. This Namo app has nothing to do with any sort of fake news that is there. The Namo app is there. It is a platform to project the achievements of the government. But if anybody files their own views there, we cannot take responsibility. But if you ask about fake news, Nidhi, which is the most biggest fake news today running in India? Rahul Gandhi's allegations in Rafale. That is the biggest fake news that is running.
Don't distract from the subject, Mr. Reddy. Let's try and have an informed. Let's please try and have an informed debate on the way social media is being misused.
Therefore, the liars. Question is, the liars today are having a field day. Lawyers like Rahul Gandhi.
I am just giving you, I'm going to read out, sorry, I'm just going to read out another example of how fake news was posted on the Namo app, again from the Huffington Post investigation. There is a user by the name of Vijeta Malik, apparently a state executive member of the BJP Haryana, also described as the 5th most active user of the Namo app. She posted a quote from Nehru saying that he was a Christian by education, Muslim by culture and Hindu merely by accident, where it turns out, Sagrika Ghosh, that Nehru never said this. She has gone on to say that Sachin Pilot said India should never have helped debt-ridden Pakistan rather than invest money into building a statue of Sardar Patel, something he never said. She also shared another long hateful post in November last... No, one second.
Modi app. This is everywhere.
Yeah, because it was then shared, it was shared on the Namo app and then taken forward to other platforms, which is why, Mr. Reddy, you must have had the pleasure of reading it somewhere else. That's the point. But therefore, Sagrika Ghosh, there becomes an increased responsibility on political parties, on government platforms to fight back. But do they want to do that?
A couple of things, Nidhi. First of all, I don't think this can be implemented. How on earth are they going to track down the fake, handles which are disseminating the fake news? They're not going to be able to do it. And also, what action have the social media platforms taken so far on hate speak, on weaponized information, on fake information? We know that there are handles that are actually spewing out fake news, that are giving hate speak, that are giving incitement to violence, which are actually followed by important people in the ruling party. Those are the handles on Twitter that are giving out this kind of news. Also, Hillary Clinton has written in her book that it was actually weaponized information that actually emanated from the Kremlin, which were actually, she has a whole theory behind this, which cost her the election, because they actually posed as blacks, as Hispanics, as different groups, as gay community, and they were actually trying to attacking her, posing to be all these different kinds of people, and that is how sophisticated it is. That is how masked it is. That is how camouflaged it is. So to think that they can act against it, that the EC can act against fake news handles, I think is a pipe dream. They're never going to be able to do it. I mean, they've said that you can't use martyrs posters in political rallies. You've said you can't politicize Pulwama Balakot, but that's exactly what ruling party politicians are doing. They're not going to be able to implement it. Purveyors of fake news are followed by influential people in the ruling party. So how are these handles ever going to be stopped? And, and lastly, I simply think that, it's so masked, so sophisticated, like Akash was saying, that I think the EC is bumblingly, at least 20 steps behind this sort of very sophisticated, very carefully calibrated machine that exists out there. I don't think they're going to be able to get a handle on it at all.
So Salman Soz, what's the Congress plan? I mean, it's not like you all haven't been accused of posting Photoshop pictures and putting stuff out there that isn't exactly kosher. Perhaps not as guilty as the other side of doing it, but how are you going to sort of deal with this problem?
Well, Nidhi, first I think I don't like to mince words. You talked about the Congress being accused here and there of spreading something, but let's face it, why are we talking about this? This issue has gained prominence in India, and let's just talk about India, forget the world, because of one particular political party, and that is the BJP, which has been spreading not just fake news, but vile abuse against opponents, calling them all sorts of things, trolling them mercilessly, especially women in this country. I think the reason we're discussing all this is because the BJP has a huge propaganda effort. It started before the 2014 election. It continues. And now the Election Commission feels that, oh, maybe this has gone too far. But I'm not really confident that the Election Commission can do much to curb this. And the reasons are very simple. If you remember the 2014 election, the Prime Ministerial candidate at that time, Narendra Modi, was caught routinely flouting the Model Code of Conduct, sitting outside polling booths and showing the lotus and all the stuff, and nobody did anything, not even a slap on the wrist. So I think these people are emboldened. They're so emboldened that Amit Shah, who's the president of Mr. Reddy's party, openly says that we can do pretty much whatever we want, but we're not always doing that. These guys, through their official handle, create such misinformation. I mean, you remember that famous chart about the fuel and how the prices have actually were going up, and they showed how they were going down. This is what they do. They're the masters of that. I think for the Congress and other opposition parties, the most important thing we can do is to go and put out the issues in front of the people. Because there are plenty of issues that people are affected by, be it jobs, be it farmers' distress, be it low investments, be it damage to small and medium enterprises. There's plenty of stuff that we can talk about and what we can do about them. And I think we take that message to the people, let them spread this information, because people, I think, have begun to tune out a lot of what these people are sending out. They can have a deluge of fake information, and of course people like Boom and Alt News and others will catch them. But by the time these guys are caught, it's already spread.
Okay,
but I think what we have to do as the opposition is to take our message to the people as fast, as quickly as we can.
Okay.
And of course, our fact checkers are also there. We're all kind of, pitch in. But these people have taken India in a very dangerous direction.
Okay,
We have to
Salman, just
retrieve
give me
our
a second.
country.
I want to
Let
ask
me tell
Akash.
You have not
Okay.
been able to face the government for all its achievements. So therefore, you are trying to say it's fake. That's the sad thing with the Congress. The Congress has become a liar's propaganda today. Completely lies and falsities.
Look, we don't believe Mr. Reddy. I know you like shouting in television stations. You cannot do that with me. Because I know this business of liars and other things. Your party president was not only arrested.
Okay, one second,
he was
guys.
arrested, he was jailed,
This is not a generic debate, guys. This is not a generic debate about the government's achievements. We're trying to have a serious discussion on fake news.
You guys have fake and counter people. You're basically fakesters. That's what you guys are.
One second, Salman and Mr. Reddy. One
You don't think
second.
that you can get into a yelling match with me?
Okay, one second. Akash Banerjee, I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to fade the mics down because this is the only way to move on this discussion. Akash, now the point is there are a couple of things here. We talked about WhatsApp. We talked about, sort of blatant use of Twitter, Facebook, etc. to promote out-and-out fake news. And then there is the question of hate speech. Now, that's a trickier one because you realize, for instance, that a platform like Twitter, often stuff that we see as blatant hate speech is, is allowed. I mean, there is a tweet that's going viral right now of a lady, I don't want to give her publicity, who's pretty much told the Muslims of India a lot of things that should not be repeated on television. Okay, and I'm sure accounts have reported her, but her tweet continues to go viral. So how do you deal with this issue of hate speech, because it keeps happening in India and it's not going to stop?
Okay, now since we are having a very specific debate and this is not related to a political party, one very fundamental fact that we have to keep in mind is that let's not assume that a Boom Live and an Alt News, etc., will be able to solve this problem. The entire media has to get into this whole fake news busting narrative and this hate news busting narrative. And the people have to finally awaken to the fact is what is happening to them. And Nidhi, I am very happy that yesterday I saw perhaps the first evidence of that when I tweeted out something on the HUL ad, and a lot of people said, no, we are going to watch this, we're going to share this. So there was a pushback. Suddenly, we are getting to see in some instances, including the poor man who was beaten up in Lucknow and who's back now on the footpath selling his wares in Lucknow. So there is a pushback that you're getting to see. The question is, has the opposition been able to corner the government on these lies? I mean, I can show you one alt news story right now. Vivek Agnihotri making claims that Nehru was responsible for the 1965 war outcome, and Nehru unfortunately had died 14 months ago. But these claims are being made, 1,000 retweets have also happened. So the thing is that these lies have been portrayed. It has to be the media, it has to be the public who has to push it back.
No, you're right. And you're right that the mainstream...
Who is this guy who's speaking? Who is this uncouth guy who is speaking? Why can't this guy shut up and listen for once?
Call yourself uncouth. You are the uncouth guy. Learn dignity. Learn decent language.
Please.
One second. Learn a decent language. That's not the way you talk.
You're okay with the guy. Okay. You're okay with the guy. So, Nidhi, the point remains that it has to be a cumulative action. We are not seeing that.
You're right.
The opposition has to target these lies a lot more. People have
No,
to be
but more
awoken
than
to
that, the
fact
mainstream
these are
media,
lies a
more
lot
than
more.
have to do it.
And
journalists
this
have to do
whole
it.
rubbish
I mean,
conversation of pointing fingers, you did this, has to stop.
In fact, Gen Z knows. Gen Z is on this show every night. We started an entire primetime show just on busting fake news, whatever sort of pops up, because there's so much of it. You can imagine, you can churn out half-hour content every day, Sagrika. You've done TV, you know how it's not easy, just on fake news. So, I mean, Gen Z, there's a lot that you guys are doing. You and Prateek Sinha of Alt News are, you're doing fantastic work in busting some of this, but, clearly it's not going to be enough. And therefore, do you believe that, in a sense, social media will be the greatest influencer in this election, or is it sort of too early to say that?
No, Nidhi, social media was a very big influence in 2014 also. But in 2019, what has fundamentally changed is that even the mainstream media is looking at fake news and misinformation, disinformation as we call it, on a very serious note. In 2014, also we had all political messaging happening on platforms like WhatsApp. Maybe probably it was not as viral because the number of smartphones and the number of WhatsApp users were far less. But today what has happened is the mainstream media is also pushing back. As Akash was also pointing out, there are people also pushing back on this. So yes, nothing is going to, the extent of it is not going to go down. But we will definitely see more and more people saying that, I want to be better informed. But as far as political narratives are concerned, I am not expecting much from the political parties because they've got an election to win and they're going to go all out this time as well.
The best way to counter fake news is up to people like us. Actually, people, as you said, in the mainstream media put out fact-checked, verified, counter-checked journalism. We've just got to raise the bar of journalism, raise the bar of reportage, raise the bar of the news we put out, and we have to, as mainstream journalists, counter this barrage of fake news, because as you point out, the platforms are not going to counter it. They're not going to stop hate speech. Nobody knows how to control hate speech, but or to control fake news, but it's going to have to be the journalists who put out credible, verified information, which is going to have to counter
what
this.
is worrying, and I just, before we move on to the next part of the show, what is worrying is how many people wake up to WhatsApp forwards in the morning and they think it's credible because their uncle from Bhopal sent them this video which says that XX was happening, and because the uncle from Bhopal has sent it, then it must be true because after all, he's just retired from this amazing government job. I mean, I'm just giving you a sense of how, Akash, you're raising your hand, but that's how people think. They think that it's real because it's come from
Nidhi, one
X.
line.
Yeah.
Nidhi, one line solution.
Tell
One
me.
line solution. Anything that comes on a WhatsApp is fake. One line solution. Anything that you see on WhatsApp, which is just a message, is fake. And then you see whether you want to verify it. Instead of saying it is the truth and then you and I sit and bust it, whatever you get on WhatsApp is fake. This is one single message I give everyone.
What a fake. What a fake you are.
Why?
Akash,
Why,
how
Mr.
could you say
Reddy?
anything on WhatsApp is false?
The
Well, a lot of it
only
is.
person who seems to be upset by these things is Mr. Reddy of the BJP. I wonder why.
Is this a responsible way of talking? Is this a responsible way of talking?
Mr. Reddy, don't get so angry. It's okay.
Please have
I am
some
just
control.
giving my point of
No,
view.
no,
Don't
no,
lynch
no,
me.
no, no, no,
so
Mr. Reddy,
defensive
don't
by
lynch
fake
me.
news is Mr.
Sorry.
Reddy.
Don't lynch me.
Something about
I am
Mr.
just
Reddy and the
stating my
BJP.
point in a democracy.
People have the
I
affection
think
for
what
a
is happening in
political
WhatsApp
party.
is
You
fake
say it is
news.
false.
I am
That
sorry.
is
Don't
But he
think
didn't
both
talk
this
about
is
any
fake news.
political
Don't
party,
think
Mr.
both
Reddy. Mr. Reddy, Akash Banerjee
Very sad.
has not talked about
I
any
did not
political
mention
party.
any political party, sir.
Akash, how can you generalize
Sir,
and
sir,
say
Can I
everything
just
is
say one
false?
thing?
One
Nidhi?
second,
I did not
Salman. I want to
mention
ask
any
Mr.
political
Reddy
party,
this.
sir.
Can you stand by that statement and say
Sir.
how funny this is?
Sir,
How
guilty
ridiculous.
conscience.
But why are you
say that
getting so
everything is
upset?
false.
Mr. Reddy, why are you
There
upset?
is no guilty conscience, sir.
Akash Banerjee has
You
not
are-
mentioned
the
any
way you
political
present
I am
party.
getting angry,
You are
sir.
a fake.
No, Mr. Reddy, why are you so upset? He hasn't mentioned
way
any
you are
political
projecting
party.
is
Sir,
totally
I did
fake.
not even mention one political party in the entire evening,
No,
sir.
how can you say everything is fake? How can
No,
you say everything is fake?
he's
Do you
cautioning
stand by
people
that?
not to
Something in the
believe
beard.
everything
Is
that comes on
everything
WhatsApp.
Sir, something in
Shouldn't
the beard, sir.
there be some responsibility on your part before you make a statement? Shouldn't you be very wary and cautious about what you say? Can you say everything is fake? Can you stand by
No,
that?
wait a second.
Who are
Can
you
I-
to
can I
certify,
come in?
my good man?
Nidhi, can I
Yeah,
come in?
Who are
Salman,
you
so
to
quick
certify,
last word. We
Nidhi,
will move on. Yeah.
No, I mean,
And nobody wants your certification.
It is only
There
Mr.
is so
Reddy.
much
It is
of
only
genuine
Mr. Reddy.
information
It is
also
only
on
Mr.
WhatsApp.
Reddy and his party It is only
Don't
Mr.
live
Reddy
in
and
a
his
fool's
party that can
paradise like
certify
this.
who
Don't
is
mislead
a
people.
nationalist, who is an anti-national
mislead people
in this
like
country.
this.
These are the people who can give certificates.
It was so
But every
ridiculous that
time
you're
we
making
spoke
such
about
statements.
fake news,
History in the
the
making.
only
People are
person
getting
on the
upset
show
over
who was
WhatsApp being
defensive
questioned.
about fake news is Mr. Reddy.
So everything is false.
Just a second. I think the only person who's defensive about fake news is Mr. Reddy, and there's a reason for that, because these people have got a PhD
I'm
in
not
fake news,
defensive.
and it
All that
starts
I'm
with the
saying
Prime
is
Minister of this country.
people
There's a
favor this
reason.
government.
There's a reason
I'm not
people
trying to
used
say
to call
it
him
was
Faku, because he would
That
say
was
stuff
very
all over
shocking.
the place. So I
was very
think Mr. Reddy and his party are guilty of doing great disservice to this
We
nation.
are not guilty, sir.
And I think we
We
will
are not
fight
guilty.
back, and I think they will
Mr.
be
Reddy,
turned out because
then
they
you should be happy. There is a crackdown on fake news. How can anybody be unhappy with that? All right, guys, one
No
second.
amount of fake news.
No, nobody can be unhappy. I think all Akash Banerjee was trying to tell people is that think twice before you open a WhatsApp forward or any message that is sent to you. Think twice, ask yourself, could this be true? Do not believe everything you are forwarded. We are entering a very delicate
Or could
phase
this
in the
be
next
from
2.5 months.
or Mr.
There is
Reddy?
going to be a propaganda war. There's going to be a lot of stuff out there which is just out and out fake. So please, this is just a caution that everyone needs to look at the messages that they're getting carefully, read everything on social media very carefully. Photographs can be photoshopped, videos can be morphed. Please try to understand that this is a far more serious issue than a stupid party spat between the two parties. This is very important to understand.
People of every community, so you cannot blame anybody.
And Akash Banerjee has a right to speak. He has a right to voice his opinion. That is what the BJP
I am amazed that in a democracy we have to
cannot
reiterate that we have a right to have an opinion. All right.